Workshop topics. A very badly made oil gun arrives in the post, plus the metal that I need to make a cover for the control panel of my Smart Brown lathe. Originally there was an aluminium cover on this control panel, but I removed it many years ago because it didn't look right as it didn't go to the end. And over the years I dropped quite a lot of items into the large hole in the control panel right into the bottom of the cabinet, and recovery was difficult and very oily. But first, take a look at this. It's easily the worst thing I've ever bought via eBay. It's supposed to be a small grease gun, but look how the end's been fitted to the tube. Just another example of Chinese manufacture. The point is though, really, it was very, very cheap at £8.45. It was advertised as a grease gun, so my logic for buying it was to convert it to an oil gun. But unfortunately, the cap at the other end is not a good fit and all the oil runs out. Even if it was full of grease, some of the oil in the grease would run out as well. And the end bit doesn't fit my Myford lathe, so I think the best thing I can do with this is put it in the bin. First of all though, I'll have a look at it in detail. Here's a sloppy end cover, and here's the wonky end. The first logical step is to bash it with a hammer. This is a soft hammer and it did nothing. It did not straighten the end part. I'll try it again one more time. No, that didn't make any difference to the badly fitted end part. I have another idea. Put it in the vise with a piece of copper tube which bears down on the part that is crooked, and by applying quite a lot of pressure, maybe it will straighten it out. But no, despite all the pressure from the vise, it did not straighten the end part. It didn't cost much, so it's hardly worth returning it. Once I'd fitted it back together, I just put it in the recycle bin. It's not all bad news though. This arrived in the post this morning from Blackgates Engineering. It's a piece of 1.5mm thick brass, and as usual it's very well wrapped. Here goes the first layer. Now it's time for the second. Everything that I buy from Blackgates Engineering always arrives very well packed. Here goes the second layer, and now all that's left is the newspaper layer. And this is no match for my very sharp Stanley knife. A word of warning: when opening parcels that contain pieces of sheet brass, watch the edge of the brass. The brass has been cut on a guillotine, so it will have sharp edges, and the very first thing to do as soon as you get the brass out of the parcel is remove the sharp edges. This lessens the risk of cutting yourself. Here's the original cover that I took off the control panel years ago. Originally I chopped the end of it because I needed to fit some start and stop buttons, as well as a switch for a coolant pump that I once bought for it. But that's long gone. It went rusty and seized up. If you look at the left hand side of this piece of aluminium, you will see 3 speeds: low, medium and high. Because when I first bought this lathe it had a 3-speed, 2 horsepower, very large 3-phase motor. I removed this and fitted a single-speed, single-phase motor, which left me with 4 speeds, 2 direct and 2 in back gear, which are fine for everything that I need to do on it. The first thing to do, using my thin marker pen, is to mark the piece of brass to the size that I want it, which is 4¼ inches wide. Why didn't I order it 4¼ inches wide in the first place? Well, I don't know really. I don't know how that's happened. Measuring incompetence on my part, obviously. It's not a problem. After marking along the edge, I mark the positions for the holes. I need to make 2 holes in the right-hand side of the piece of brass to accommodate the start and stop buttons. This involves making a cardboard template for this area. I turned the aluminium plate around and then I drew round the corners. And then once I'd done that, with the help of my old Burgess bandsaw, I cut the piece of brass to the right size. Now it's 4¼ inches wide. In order to obtain a more accurate cut, I've lowered the blade guide. It's very important when using a bandsaw to keep your fingers well clear of the blade. That was a health and safety notice. Once I'd arrived at the correct width, I trimmed the corners too. The next part of the job is to make a cardboard template. I just sat the piece of brass on some cardboard and drew round the edge of the piece of brass. Here I'm just cleaning it up and getting rid of any more sharp edges with some Scotch-Brite. Now, using a set square, I'm marking the position where I need to cut the piece of card. While on the subject of pieces of card, I bought this quite thick card via Amazon. A few viewers are recommending that I use cereal boxes. The problem is, cereal is high carbohydrate. And I am type 2 diabetic, and I do feel that it would be difficult to do this job if I was in a diabetic coma. And that's why I took the decision to splash out and buy the proper stuff. This type of card worked very well when I made the wrapper template for the simplex boiler. At this stage, I will apologise to one of my viewers. Here is a comment: "Hi Keith, it's good work, but when we getting back to some of the real model engineering projects like the simplex and the triple expansion engine?" And the answer to that is, I make a video every day, so I can only video what I do every day. And basically, I'm not a young man, so after a day's work in the workshop doing things like moving lathes about and painting floors and painting lathes, I no longer have the energy level that would allow me to work into the night. Maybe I should just make 2 videos a week and make them much longer. That's what some other engineering video YouTubers do, and they make a lot more money than I do. I will get back to the normal projects once I get my workshop in order. I can't do the normal projects without a functioning workshop. The Boxford lathe, by the way, was on its last legs. It needed serious attention. For the moment, it's back to this job, making a cover for the control panel on the Smart Brown Lathe. Here are the start and stop buttons I fitted many years ago. I need to cut holes in the cardboard template to match the positions of these 2 buttons. In the next video, when I show the part of the job which is actually making the cover, you will see how it all works out. And now the time has come. Here is a very useful top tip that can also be applied to model engineering projects. To transfer the positions of these buttons onto the cardboard, apply a small amount of steam oil to the buttons, then use your finger to spread it out all over the top of the buttons, especially making sure that you do not miss anywhere around the edges. Then all you have to do is press your cardboard template over the buttons, using something to make sure that it's in the right position at the right hand side. Press and hold the cardboard onto the buttons to let the oil soak in. Once you remove the piece of card, it looks like this. 2 fairly perfect impressions of the positions of the buttons. Now all I need to do is cut on the oily lines, use my felt tip pen marker on the resultant holes to mark the positions for the buttons on the piece of brass. I'll show the rest of the operation in the next video. I have to go now because today is the day I get my second COVID-19 vaccination. All I have to say, as usual, is stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.